hopefully third time's a charm. I just updated the software on this. I don't know why we're getting write errors, but
we'll try it again.
We're trying it
and
again.
See.
So, what do we got this week?
Well, we're going to have a blacklist, but I decided to not do that blacklist.
That's all on you.
So instead, I picked a movie that we saw on Labor Day.
Okay. This one I was surprised to see. Well, not really, but Jean Reno, what used to be an international action movie star, and now he's aged.
An old man.
Well.
An older man.
He is an older man. It was called, what? My Friend the Penguin?
It was called My Penguin Friend.
So this was your pick, so you get to walk us down.
It was my pick. A movie that recently came out that we saw in the theater.
Did you know this was based on a true story?
I did not. I'd actually never heard of this story or this movie. We were walking by the theater and we saw a poster for it and it looked interesting.
This is normally not the kind of movie I would see.
But it was good for Labor Day. I thought it was perfect.
For Labor Day.
For a holiday.
I got it, here's my critique of it. At least when it comes to the story. I think the concept is interesting, if it were to unfold in real life. But, the script itself,
yeah.
I don't want to call it amateur, but, not really. It wasn't the kind of movie you see for, engaging dialogue.
No, I don't think so. I think that also I would agree. Well, I would agree. One, let me start over. One, I would agree with that. And two, I think it's not, this movie wasn't made for dialogue. It wasn't made for, I mean.
I think that's what I struggled with is the function of it. Whenever you there's a lot of stories that you can take the premise of and then fictionalize components of it to dress it up. And there wasn't really any of that with this. It's just this this penguin is migrating from where the south, the Patagonia region of Argentina
To Brazil.
Yeah. Well,
somewhere in Brazil.
He broke off and went to Brazil, didn't he? Don't they normally go to Antarctica? Until
you just said that now, I didn't. Way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did break off and go.
Are penguins in the South Pole? You should know this more than I should.
Why should I know this?
Well, you teach kids and you take them to the zoo and stuff, don't you?
No, we do not take them to the zoo.
I don't know. I don't know if they're. Well, they must be in the South Pole. The North Pole is
too far away.
Well, what is anyone who's listening to this how do you idiots not know this? Just look up where do penguins migrate to. Anyway, this one particular penguin breaks off from his, I guess, flock, or he leaves late or something, and as he's swimming with his cluster, he breaks off to get something to catch a fish, and it seems like he gets separated from the migration group, and he comes upon a boat that's kicking out all this diesel and kicking out all this oil, and then it gets caught in an oil slick and just messy and covered with oil. And for anybody who knows anything about birds and oil don't mix well. And I think he gets suffocated by it.
Yeah, I think so. That's right.
And so he just kind of floats along for a while, and he happens on the coast of Brazil, and this fisherman finds him, and takes him into his house and cleans him off. And he's surprised because he's in a tropical area. And he's like, "There's a penguin in my back door," and he cleans this bird off, and the bird takes a shine to him and just hangs out with it. And Jean Reno's character is feeding him.
His family's fish.
Yeah. And we should probably tell the story about Jean Reno and his kid before. I don't know if that was fictionalized or if that was true.
I don't know either, to be honest. But yeah, the way it started out.
You should do that.
Okay. So when Jean Reno's character is a younger man,
Mm-hmm.
he has a kid. I forget what his kid's name is right now. I thought I would remember. But his kid, the morning of one of his birthdays, I think maybe his 9th or 10th birthday, he wants to go out fishing with his dad in the morning, and the kid is really insistent about it, and his dad's like, I don't know, and then he's like, but it's my birthday, please take me, and his dad gives in, and so they go out really early in the morning. It's a dark and stormy morning, and dad's still not sure, but the kid's like, it's my birthday, you said you would take me out, please take me out. They go out on the boat, and they make it maybe less than halfway, and his dad's like, we're turning around, this just doesn't look good.
It's too rough. Yeah.
It's too rough. And I think when they're turning around,
they get capsized,
and it doesn't end well. It does not end well. So at a young age, Jean Reno's character loses his son, or his son dies at a young age, and I think he goes through his whole life, and it's like, there's a void in his life. His kid died. Yeah,
he's clearly he just breaks it. He becomes more reclusive. Like he doesn't talk to his friends, and I think they got the point across, but it was obvious that it's been years since he's talked to his friends, and his friends kind of resent it a bit, but they get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well said. Definitely.
And
so he really just keeps to himself and his wife.
Yeah, and you got to appreciate that. If a couple of parents lose a kid, and you hear about that all the time, that the parents split up, but they stay together.
Yeah.
And when this bird comes into his life, he kind of finds a new purpose. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, it makes sense. You need to have, if you're somebody who has children and you raise a child and you bond with another person, you have that in you to do that. And then when you lose, in the event that you lose a child, you have nowhere to give this affection. You have no one to dump your knowledge into. Mm-hmm. And so there's a part of him that wants to be a protector and a nurturer
to someone or something. Yeah.
And this bird comes along, and he can kind of download it to this animal.
Yep.
But you see the bird kind of bring him out of his shell.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning he didn't know how, I want to use the word permanent, but I don't mean permanent, how life-changing this experience would be, and that this penguin would come back to him multiple times. He didn't just show up one day
the bird migrates
for a short time every year. Yeah, it's in him to do that every year. And so he would come and, I'm going to use air quotes, stay for a while.
Did he go 5,000 miles away. Or 1,500 miles or something? It was a long distance.
It was a long distance. I honestly thought it was at least 500. I honestly thought it was at least 500 miles. It was probably longer.
Check that out.
I tried to look.
It didn't say.
I couldn't find. So at the end of the movie, as the credits are rolling, information about the penguin and how far he traveled each year and for how many years he did it came up on the screen, and I can't find that information.
It was over 1,000
online.
miles.
Was it?
I know it was.
Okay, my numbers are really off.
It was a long distance.
I looked up the distance from Argentina to Brazil, and it's 1,800 miles. Yeah. So he couldn't have gone.
Well, they're right next to each other. You mean from where?
Oh yeah, that would be in country, the water.
Yeah.
Or the coast, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, but the bird was way down in southern Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead. He migrated, swam all the way
Yeah,
up.
he swam all up to like mid-coastal Brazil, which is, I mean, that's farther than I've ever driven for a show. I didn't look up a recipe. Oh, well.
It's okay. We'll be okay.
But part of the movie, where the penguin nests in Argentina, there's researchers, and and they come across this bird, and they happen to tag it. And during one of his migrations back to Brazil, what's Jean Reno's? You've got IMDb. What's his character's name in that? I want to say it's Paulo, but that's not it. He notices that there's a tag on it through, happenstance. It gets back to these researchers that there's this penguin in Brazil that's going back and forth every year to this guy.
I would say 𝐥𝐢, but it says, or Joe, but it's J-O-A with a tilde and an O. So I forget how you pronounce it.
Ish, in my broken, disgusting Portuguese. They have this kind of, the researchers kind of get in touch with a journalist who goes to interview the 𝐥𝐢 and his wife and get the story of the penguin. And this is what I mean about it being, it would have been a good book or a good article, but I think it was a little flat.
I almost wondered, in thinking about this movie, if it would have been better more as a documentary, not like a...
Yeah, like a feature.
Yeah, like a... I don't know, like a narrative movie.
Yeah, because they had clips at the end about the guy, and even with the, let's just say I don't know this to be the case, but if they added the bit about the sun, and if they, at one point the researchers are pressured by the professor they report to collect this bird and bring it back for study, and they, the bird gets away, quote unquote, gets away.
Well, and they'll be paid for it too. They'll get extra money for bringing this penguin, to a local university, and then they're going to put him on display for people to see.
And that's the other thing, is that, like, I don't know how much of that is real. I'm sure a lot of that they add that.
Yeah, probably true.
Add some dramatic juice to it. But I just thought it was kind of like, I don't know, almost like a natural cycle of life. Like they said at the end of this movie that the bird came up, like, I don't know, for 8 seasons?
Yeah.
And then stopped coming. But you can tell from the one season he showed up really late how nervous it made him. Yeah,
everybody was counting on it. Everybody in the little town, they all came out to sit by the water and wait for him to come, and then the bird never showed up.
And which I find it funny to do in a movie, like you would know to the day.
Yeah,
what day he's going to show up.
I'm glad you said that, because when we were watching it, I wondered about that too. How did they all know that today's the day?
The bird doesn't send an email and say, I'm going to be there on Wednesday. How do they? They just all sit out there like, well, it's he shows up. He shows up when he shows up. So it's just kind of a funny. How do you want to say this? It was a funny mechanism to use. Like, we're all going to sit out and wait for this bird to show up. But what they didn't, of course, they don't show this in the movie, but one year he does, in fact, stop coming. And they say, we'd like to believe that he found a partner or a mate.
And had a family.
And which is kind of a Disney-fied, like, it would stand to reason that during that migration he got eaten.
I mean, anything could have happened. Anything could have happened. It would be nice to think that he found a life partner, mate, and had a family.
That's the hope, and I'm not trying to put like a downer spin on this, but I just find it funny how they, at the end of the movie, they put that notation is that like that's what we think happened.
Yeah.
Like, mm-hmm. how do we know?
That's not for sure. Yeah.
We don't know.
I don't think anybody knows what happened. I mean, how could you? You have to find. Yeah, I don't know.
I think really what they, the real moral of the story is that people can have a bond with animals, and there's a language barrier right now, but still, the people and living things want to be connected and
mm-hmm.
work together in some way. And I remember my stepmother, when we had our first dog, Max,
mm-hmm.
she found him, or I don't know, like if she, now everybody says rescued, but I can't remember where she found him from. He was really, really underweight and kind of starving,
mm-hmm.
and she fed him like a chicken broth, like a soup,
mm-hmm.
and cooked chicken, and she like pampered him and brought him back to weight,
mm-hmm.
and he was really attached to her
mm-hmm.
from like going forward. So I believe in that. That's a real thing. There's too many examples for it not to be
mm-hmm.
a real thing. I think I walked out of that movie just being like, it got the point across. It was just a little
kind of flat.
I'm trying to search for a better word for it,
yeah.
But like, I don't know.
I think
part of like here, you know what it is when we started this podcast, part of me wanted to give like a favorable review to the most of the movies that we watched.
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't, I wouldn't call it bad. You know where I'll give it real points is in the titling at the beginning of the movie. Like, I think that's a whole art. Like with
oh,
they did
yeah,
with the
I'd almost forgotten about that. I loved that.
The postcards and the titling.
The animation in the beginning of the movie was really, really nice.
Good.
And it wasn't, the title of the movie didn't come up until after a scene or two.
Yeah.
And there was also, in addition to...
they did it at the end, too, didn't
they? The animation.
At the very end.
The title came up. Yes, yeah. I think so. You're right. But I'd completely forgotten about the animation at the beginning. I loved that.
I wanted, or at least this is I'm going to try my best here to articulate. There's a lot of like foreign films
mm-hmm.
that they don't rely, I think, as heavy on dialogue because that wherever they're set or whatever the story is, English isn't the native language.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they do put it in English, they got to simplify it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, when the researcher is talking with her head professor about the grant, like, that could have been a way more in-depth conversation. But
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was almost like it was a little forced.
Mm-hmm.
And, like you've seen a movie where you've seen dialogue that just looks manufactured
yep.
for the movie. It doesn't seem authentic, and like I'm gonna freely, like, I haven't made a movie, so I haven't written dialogue that translates well to the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like some of the, like, who I liked as an actor was the researcher, like when the bird got away.
Yes.
And
mm-hmm.
the other guy was like, what happened to the penguin?
Mm-hmm.
She was believable.
Yeah, I was going to say that a few minutes ago. Is I think that because there's a team of 3 researchers, 2 women and a guy, and I think that that the actors and actresses playing the researchers, they weren't really like very believable or into it. Like they were kind of just like, at least that's kind of how I felt. I mean, they did a fine job, but like I just felt like they were like reading off a script. My name is Luisa Genesta, and I am this many years old, and I live here, and I do this, and it was like, Are you really talking about yourself or like doing the script justice, or are you just like playing a researcher? I didn't feel, it was very like surface to me, I guess.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
As we're talking, I got to find a recipe here, but.
Well, that's okay. I can keep talking to him and keep talking about, okay, let's see. What can I say? I will say, and I don't know that I voiced this, but I'm sure you already figured this out, but I thought that the little girl was really cute.
Which one? The one who named him?
Mm-hmm. So when 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐤's son, I'm sorry that's probably not how you pronounce his name, so I'm sorry that I'm not doing it right. But when his son was younger, when he was younger, he had a best friend who lived in town, and they, I think, would go to school together, and were in the same class. And part of the beginning of the movie is this girl, Clara, gives 𝐥𝐢 an early birthday present, and he saves it with the hopes that he's going to say, he puts it away, so it's not like he's not thinking about it, and he hopes that tomorrow when it's his birthday he'll remember it to open it. And then unfortunately he doesn't make it to that, so he didn't open it. He never opened it. Why am I saying? Clara had a daughter, and I don't have her name right in front of me right away, but she was really cute, I thought, and she did a really great job, and she ends up sort of befriending the penguin only because he lives with 𝐥𝐢, and she sees them walking through the village, and she says, "Oh, I like your penguin. What's your penguin's name?" And he's like, "He doesn't have a name. I didn't think of a name for him." And she's like, "Maybe you should call him Din Dim."
Din Dim.
And
how did you come up with that?
I know.
That must be some kind of Brazilian thing.
Speaking of the movie, I waited the whole movie for his name to be explained, because other people would come into contact, if you will, with the penguin, and they'd be like, "Who's the penguin? The penguin's so cute." And he'd be like, "His name is Din." And they'd
be like, "Oh, that's an unusual name."
But there was never
they never asked, like, why did you name him there? What does that mean?
Yeah, but I did think it was cute how the girl named him, and she took ownership of his name. Like, his name is,
Yeah.
She was very proud of that fact.
Yeah, I just keep coming back to that, like, this story, when it was discovered, it makes sense for it to be not only an article, but, like you said, it as a documentary. I do kind of wonder if Powell actually got paid from this, because it's his story. I would hope so. And I see what you're saying. It looks like he lived out in the middle of nowhere. He lived on the coast, like right on the water.
Not to interrupt and step for a minute, but yes, you were correct. 5,000 miles.
Wow, that's far. I've never.
Every year.
That's like L.A. to. That's farther than L.A. to Maine.
Oh my goodness.
That's so far. It
is. It's farther from.
It's like 2,800 or 3,000 miles. I think it's 3,000 miles from New York to L.A.
Oh my gosh. I'm like speechless.
That's so far.
5,000 miles one
every
time
year.
is like, wow. But then to like repeatedly do it.
Back and forth. So what is that?
And it's not like there was anybody leading him or showing him the way. He was swimming this journey by himself.
Is that 5,000 one way?
It says traveled 5,000 miles every year to visit its rescuer. But I'm going to keep reading and try to find it out.
So if that was 5,000 times 8, that's 10 times. It's 80,000 miles the bird traveled to see a person.
5,000 miles from... In order to breathe, they must return to Patagonia, 5,000 miles from the home. Took him in. It must be 5,000 miles one way.
Yeah, so both ways, that's 10,000 miles a year.
Oh my gosh.
And then he did it 8 times.
That's amazing.
That's 80,000 miles.
Also, dimdin is a Portuguese word meaning ice pop.
Well, that would make sense.
It's cute.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, should have. That wasn't addressed at all. I wonder. It's funny that they picked Jean Reno for this because he's French. And
they
Portugal is the predominant language in Brazil.
Portuguese, yeah.
Yeah. And Argentina is Spanish.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I always find that funny when you have a movie shot in another country and they're speaking in English. And you're like, I know they don't
do it like that in real life.
Yeah, it's just funny that like the suspension of disbelief that happens with movies. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, but you know what they want you to believe? It like these researchers are out in the middle of nowhere, but they're really smart scientists, so of course they speak English. They just speak it with a
Spanish, Portuguese accent.
The researchers were Argentinian.
Oh, okay.
But same thing with Pau. Like, he's going to speak Portuguese. We're not going to know what they're saying, but they're like, we don't want to subtitle that.
Yep.
That's another $50,000.
Yep. Oh, I really liked this movie. I thought it was fun. It was cute. It was good.
Yeah.
A nice, heartwarming story.
Yeah.
That's what I
And that's the kind of thing that Louisa likes.
I do.
My critique of it isn't, I don't think it would be so much entertainment value as it would be. I've been in the sun all day, so pardon me, anybody, if I yawn. I think between the two of us, I like more complicated stories.
Yeah, this one wasn't very complicated.
No. I like surprises. I like tension. I like dynamism between characters, and the thing with, a relationship. The relationship was fixed between his friends and him when he. There was a scene where the penguin doesn't come back and he's flipping out and he's like, "It should be here. I gotta go get him." And he goes and asks his friends who he hasn't talked to for years for help, and they hop to. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that relationship has been brought back into the fold. So that's kind of you kind of expected that though when you saw there was some friction with him and his friends. You're like, this is gonna be a point that's gonna be addressed with the onset of the inclusion of the penguin somehow. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say it was formulaic, but you can kind of see a lot of these things coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that I like more to a movie and characters and things like that usually too. But again, I thought this was a nice, lighthearted movie to see, and it was, touching and enjoyable. And yes, like I do like those kind of movies, and a relationship between human and an animal is always like endearing.
You know what this movie made me think of? Well, first of all, placement, where you would see it. And I know a lot of people don't utilize television so much as the internet now, but a Sunday afternoon. This is a perfect Sunday afternoon movie.
To sit down and watch at your house.
And I think I've talked to you about this before. Like, where when that used to have a time slot for animal shows was Mutual of Omaha. Mutual of Omaha had Wild Kingdom, and it was always on in the early evening.
On Sunday.
On Sundays. Like it started at like 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock. And there was nothing really, it wasn't a high viewing thing, but Mutual of Omaha always had a thing about wildlife. And this seems like, it was more documentary stuff about particular animals, but this would be the kind of movie that would slot in there well, like sit down in bed.
Yeah.
With the sun coming through the windows, have a blanket on. You're going to be comfortable. You're not going to get too riled up or agitated. It's not a Friday or Saturday night kind of picture.
No, it's not. It's like a Free Willy.
Yeah, sure, which I've, of course, never seen, but from what I've read. Recipe?
Before you read your recipe, can I just read a little trivia that I found on this movie? Because I really wondered about this. So what I thought was also fun was at the end of this movie in the credits, they I don't want to say, I can't think of the word, but celebrated, like wrote down all the penguins that played Dimden, and it was I can't say that word.
Dimden.
His name for anyone.
I think it's N, then
It's N,
M.
then M. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. So 10 rescue penguins played
Dim.
for the movie. 80% of the shots were real penguins. 20% where the situation would be unsafe or not.
Yeah, like the thing with the oil slick, they wouldn't have used a real
Right.
penguin in there.
And 15. So then that 20% breaks down into 15% of the shots were CGI and 5% were animatronics. But I just think that's really cool because watching it, I sort of wondered, and there were a couple moments in the movie where I was like, that can't be a real penguin. They're not doing that with a real penguin. But again, I also think that it's really cool that they used, and they do this a lot with animals in movies, use multiple animals for the same, one animal. But again, I just think
They
that's
wanted
neat.
it to have, like, it had a white crest on its neck, almost like a loop. Mm-hmm. So you have to find.
Oh,
You have to
that's
find
a good point. Yeah, the
10 penguins of
who look
about
like-
that size that
Yep.
had about that kind of coloration. Because
Yeah,
if you
that's
find
true.
one that has more of a spot or more of a wider band, it's
Your
gonna
audience
look
would
funny.
immediately look at it and say, yeah,
Like, that's not the same bird.
right, yeah. So
These ones you couldn't tell, but some of the one, like the one where he was in the oil slick, like
That can't be-
doesn't look like totally real. And
yeah, and that bird was really covered because, like you said earlier, oil and bird feathers, no, do
Yeah.
not mix at all, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah, you can tell when they were cleaning him off that they just used dirt in the. Well, I mean, you couldn't, but they're not going to use oil. They just had like dirty soap when he was scrubbing him down because
Yeah,
there was a scene where he cleaning him for 2 days. I think there was a little bit of they dipped a little bit into the idea that maybe I think maybe they just hinted at that the bird was a reincarnation of the sun.
yeah, they did very loosely at one point. I think
Like when
on that.
when he went and found the present that Clara had given him, it was put under his bed, and he dug it out and he kind of gave it to Jean Reno.
There was also, I'm remembering in the movie a few times there was a line, he's very persistent.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
that played throughout the movie
Persistence is a big thing with this movie.
when Jean Reno's son wanted to go fishing the morning of his birthday. Jean Reno didn't really think it was a good idea, and he just said he's very persistent.
Yeah.
And then a few times in the movie that would come up, and I think one time that came up in reference to the penguin. And
Yeah.
so that was, I think, when he was like, oh, this could be like my son coming back to say I'm okay or
Yeah,
whatever.
or at least even if it's not the same spirit, it's the
idea of it.
idea of him or the behavior is similar, and familiarity creates a bond.
Yep.
All right, are you ready for this? You're gonna love this.
I'm ready.
This is super simple. This is just a fruit salad with a honey pairing,
Okay.
but especially in Michigan, so many people just use like a lot of the standard fruits like peaches, pears, peaches, strawberries, watermelon. But I love it when people mix these ones up because it's way more tropical, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and just say it's just it's a cooler flavor. Strawberry, and you're chopping all these up.
Okay.
This is what I mean. It's just a medley with honey on top. Strawberries, pineapples, mangoes, which I knew you'd love, kiwi, pomegranate, lime, and honey. Mixed
Wow.
in yeah, and
That's-
no one can see this, but looks good, right?
Yeah, it's very colorful, and it looks delicious. It looks very refreshing.
That would.
It's like a rainbow fruit salad.
God, that looks good. I would eat that right now. Do you
It would be so delicious, and like you could eat it just to have it. Like you could have it in the morning, but you could like also have it for
I
dessert.
always find it funny though when people jar up these chopped up fruits. I'm like, that's only good for a couple days, right?
Oh, like can them?
They're not even canned. They just put them in a bell jar. And like, I know
I
this
see
is
what
for an
you're saying.
Instagram post, but I'm like, nobody stores it like that. I can't stay good
No,
like
I
that
can't.
for long.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
So mango and pomegranate, if you can get your hands on those, and if you can stay patient with peeling them without losing your mind. As always, J Hey Honey for any of your honey needs for these recipes. They sponsor the show. Way to go! Way to go, me. I don't know that we're gonna say if we're gonna do a blacklist next time or not. We're kicking it around. We had one idea, or Louisa had one idea, but I don't think either of us were ultra charged up about it.
Yeah, I thought it would be more exciting than it ended up being. When I went to do my casting research, I wasn't feeling it.
Do you think we're gonna do that, or do you wanna change movies?
I think I would like to change movies.
Okay, because
so if we do another blacklist, or the next blacklist we do, it'll be a new movie.
Yeah, this one had a dog in it. I think
that threw me off.
Yeah, when you first sent it to me, I'm like, a dog. The only thing I could think of is Benji, and Benji isn't alive.
And a dog for this movie. Benji was alive,
30, 40 years ago. I don't know that there's any really famous dog actors.
I didn't think that through very well. That's kind of what I thought, that it would be.
I think that's the only one.
Easy and fun. There's the dogs that were in what's that movie that everybody, back in the day.
8 Below.
Something about the journey or something.
8 Below.
No, I know that movie. I think that movie is
about
about
Disney movie. Yeah. The Journey of Ned again.
No,
you weren't even alive for that movie. John Cusack was in that.
I don't know that movie. No. The Unbelievable Journey or something like that. Is that a movie?
Oh, I know. This is another Disney movie.
It's like 2 dogs and a cat.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what that is. I know what you're talking. Whatever it is, it's some.
So that's another movie that I was thinking. Oh, there's a dog in that movie. And there have been lots of movies with dogs in them, but it's hard to.
You know why
it's
they
not
make
like you
those.
see the same dog in multiple movies or whatever.
You know why they make those?
Why?
Because the principals, you don't have to pay them anything. You just have to get a good trainer. And you have one person who's one or two people who are actors who are nobodies, and you sell it to kids.
Yep.
It's like kids who want a dog.
And then everybody and their brother's mom would say are going to see this movie.
Yeah. All right. We're going to get back to you on what's next. We're a little bit delayed in getting this out, but... it's
been a busy end of the summer.
Oh, yeah. Summer is over, and now fall markets continue.
Haha, The Incredible Journey.
Oh, wow. Way to call it.
Oh, nope. Homeward Bound. Homeward Bound. That's what I was thinking of.
It's not the same movie? It sounds like the same movie.
Oh, here we have. It's called Homeward Bound. Was that : The Incredible Journey.
So it is the same movie. All right.
I knew, yeah. Woo. Thank you, Internet, because that would have taken a long time to figure out.
Yeah, I don't think that there's what? Come on.
It's. I just saw a meme and it said, if you ever wanted Elon, it said something like, if I ever wanted Elon Musk if something about a movie about Elon Musk, they wanted
with Kathy Bates
to play. Yeah, how did you know?
I saw it today.
Okay, because that was really funny.
And they look super similar.
That was really funny.
That's what I was thinking about today. Is that even though there's still a thriving market for movies, this generation is super into memes. And I'm not breaking any ground saying this, but I know it's common knowledge, but kids look at memes today for their ultra short attention span the way we looked at the release of a film.
And hung on a trailer for months.
Oh my God, for months. I remember this is a crap movie that I never saw, but I remember seeing the preview for the Flintstones movies with Stephen Baldwin in front of some other, I don't remember what movie I was going to see.
How old are you, Jay?
I'm archaic. Like
Flintstones with Steve Baldwin?
honest to God.
Okay.
I think this was in 91, maybe 90.
Okay. No, I believe you. It's not that I don't.
Yeah, we weren't using whale oil or anything to heat the house. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. But I remember seeing it in the theater, the trailer for it. And at the end of the trailer, this was in like August or something, and that said, coming next summer. I'm like, that's a year from now. That's so far away. And I think production times are still
relatively the same.
Relatively the same, but like,
I think they market things differently.
yeah, and kids don't have the younger people, you know, in their 20s, and so they have the, not to say they don't go see movies, but I think they consume memes the way that we used to consume movies. And going to the theater was like that was an activity.
In addition to, I have a lot of commentary about this. You were saying that young people these days consume memes. It's also like TikTok and YouTube and what am I missing? There's one other one. But anyway, like, I mean, you can sit there and watch a little, you know, movie, a short clip about anything and everything in the world.
And there's so much of it.
And there's so much of it. I mean, you could...
It's endless, and it's constantly being recreated. And I think that's the funny thing is, like, someone who always wanted to be a movie producer, is that now it's almost like a moot career.
Yeah. And it's very addictive and it's very quick and you just like get sucked in right away. And also to your points about movie trailers. So I was going to say, because for those of us that don't know yet, but I'm a huge Disney fan and I absolutely love, and like you were saying, love Disney, anything Disney. And like you were saying, when we were younger and you would go to the movie theater, you might see a trailer for a movie that wasn't coming out for like another, 6 months to a year. And you'd be like waiting with almost bated breath for this movie to come out. You know, you and your friends would all be talking about it, or you and your siblings or your family or whatever. And it makes me think of every year going to the Disney movie that would come out that year. That was a really big thing in my family. We always, because I think it would come out in the summertime around one of my sister's birthdays, and that's something that we did for someone's birthdays. We went to a movie and we went to dinner somewhere, and that was huge.
Well, I think this also speaks to content, and the amount of content. Like, studios would produce, and it's fluctuated over the years, like in the 40s and 50s, they would do between 200 and 300 movies a year.
Yeah, that's great, yeah.
But in the 80s and 90s, each studio would release between 4 and 12 movies.
Okay.
So it was much smaller. And there was a few more studios, but and they had varying budgets. Their tentpole movies, their big movies would come out in the summers, but they'd have mid-market, medium-budget movies between $15 and $60 million. Yeah. And that is, there's an argument to be made for, like, it's trying to come back, but I don't know that it's going to be sustainable because there is so... I know I'm not making any commentary that anyone's listening to that, like, it's not common knowledge, but I just want to highlight it. There's so much user-created content that just doesn't end. And to come up with a story that you can actually, that a company is going to finance and produce. I'll tell you, you know what? We haven't talked about this a lot, but have you seen anything about Sora? I think I mentioned this to you before.
A very little bit, yeah.
Like, and Midjourney, but in particular Sora is an AI.
Remind me? Yeah.
It's an AI engine it's crazy advanced. You can input, you've seen me like input prompts for my newsletter, for it to write my newsletter. It's like that, but with images and actual moving. Like it'll create a movie for you. Wow. I can say, give me a.
Oh, I think we tried this or watched someone try it.
We watched someone do it because you have to pay to utilize it, but you can say, all right, I want to see a movie about Sly Stallone as a lumberjack who builds his own house, but has to fight off like bipedal bears that are moving in on his territory and pushing him out of his cabin. You can just make up a story.
Sounds crazy, but it's no joke.
It'll give him clothes. He'll move and talk like Sylvester Stallone, and the graphics are really, really good. And in 3 years, you're not going to be able to distinguish between that and Sly Stallone. Like any of the edging around someome's face, you know how it has a little bit of a glow to it. That's going to go away. It's going to be photo real. I mean, I've looked at some of the AI stuff from. There was this one image circulating of Will Smith eating spaghetti that was just AI generated, and it looked. I've shown you a couple of AI images that. Like I tried to make with one of those generators for my for that cartoon.
Yep, I remember.
And you remember how they didn't have their hands or their arms were malformed?
Yeah, I always look for this now when I look at things. Yeah.
So this Will Smith thing, him eating spaghetti, his head's a weird shape. You can tell it's weird, Will Smith, but his head's a weird shape. He doesn't bite through the spaghetti; it's just kind of morphs into his mouth, and his head shifts in kind of a. It doesn't move like
up and down, kind of.
No, it doesn't move like in a fluid, real life way. It moves like in a. There is a band called The Editors, and they have a song called "Heart Attack," and I've showed you this. I think it's some kind of AI that's used in their. Video, and it's scenes, but they're kind of dreamscape scenes that morph from one into the next.
Oh yeah, I remember watching this.
And that's how the Will Smith thing happened, or how this image looked. The edges were softer and they would break down. His head would shift. It looked almost, I want to be able to say this correctly, like it was halfway between video and illustration, but it was broken. It wasn't choppy, but it was like cockeyed. Like it's almost like it was animated Picasso.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a really good way to describe it.
But now it's way more fluid, and definition and musculature and clothing and fabrics. You can still tell that they're generated, but the line's getting it's leaps and bounds better. This was 2 years ago. I remember looking at this stuff when I went up to get my Indian card in Canada. That's when I first saw this stuff. Yeah. And now it's like 3 generations better.
Yeah.
By the time I'm 52, this stuff's going to be amazing. It's like
yeah, because this is just the beginning, so they're still working out like the little kinks and things like that. But it will, yeah.
Well, the reason why I bring this up is because Sora and other protocols like it. I got to tell you, like, it feels like the end of Hollywood to me, because anybody now who wants to pay a subscription fee
can make a movie about anything.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the very beginning of that. Like, you can just be like, all right, I'll give Sora $1,000 and I'll write my script and I'll make it. and I don't have to finance anything. I don't have to rent anything. I don't need actors.
Right.
I don't need.
You don't need all that extra.
Permits.
You don't need anything.
Nothing.
Yeah. All you have to do, you need a computer.
Yeah.
And you need to type in. Yeah.
Which, like, honestly, I don't know how I feel about it, because part of the old way of making movies, it's like it's a rarefied breed that could make them, because you had to have access or get access to the mechanics to do it, and also to actually to make money at it so you can keep doing it. You had to get access to the right people. You had to get access to the industry. And now you can just make a thing, and depending on how good your imagination is, how good you can verbally illustrate it, you can put it out there into the ether. I mean, people are already doing that now, but like you can make a movie a day.
Yeah.
So that's going to be. I think I told you, like, I've already seen one competitor pop up for Sora. That's like $15 to $30 a month.
Okay.
Like, oh my God, you can create so much stuff with that.
Yeah.
And the prompts are like, once you learn how to enter in once you understand how to fill in the prompts correctly to get the output that you want. Whoa.
Yeah.
So that would be really interesting for to look back at, when I was a kid, you had to move to Hollywood. You had to try and make the right connections. You had to try to sell a script. And it's almost like how the consumption of marijuana has changed. If you tell kids back in the day, you used to have the Tom Segura's joke, I'd have to try not to die to go get weed. And now it's like it's everywhere. Like, for that to be completely upended with making a show, it's like you don't have to move to California. That place is a dump.
That's crazy.
It's like, just think it up, and there it is. And like, to say that to people in Hollywood, they're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we're going to have the computing power to do that. It'd be so nuts to go from going to the movies all the time when I was a kid to anything I can imagine I can make. Oh, that's tremendous. That's tremendous.
It makes me sad, actually.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's amazing and sad at the same time.
It's neat to go forward in that kind of a way, maybe, but it makes me really sad that what was good and worked for so long might be less.
You know what? And there was so much. You hear so much about Hollywood and how it's destroyed a lot of lives. Like, people go out there and it's a big ego competition, and people have had great ideas, but they get their intellectual property stolen, or they get sidetracked with drugs or smut or any number of things. That whole town is filled with pitfalls. To actually achieve success is not only it's just wrought with pitfalls. And now, it makes you ask bigger questions. What is fame, and what is that even going to be achievable if you have anybody out there creating anything you want?
Yeah, but with the computer, if you don't need actual people to do everything and to do all of that's a lot of jobs.
It's not only a lot of jobs, it's the amount. We think there's a lot of content now. Can you imagine not just making a meme?
Yeah.
If you can make your own story, you can make your own series. What if nobody sees it? You just make it for you. You can make your own entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're I just want new James Bond movies with Roger Moore in his prime. That's all I want. And I'm going to write it how I want to see it.
Yeah.
In the settings I want, driving the cars I want them to drive, wearing the suits I want them to wear, fighting the villains I want them to fight.
I don't know if I like it.
I don't know. Well, I mean, it depends on... See, this is the thing. I would say I don't like it because I like the anticipation of somebody's
movie that you had nothing to do with.
Yeah, that I had nothing
going
to do
see.
with. But now you have the sheer scope of it's almost like will have access to everyone's imagination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like how it'll play out, I don't know. It's an interesting transition, but I guess you can't stop progress. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And like when we're older, it'll be interesting to have a conversation. I can see why older people like to talk to younger people about what is in their future. Like, it sounds cliche to say, when I was young, this is how it was. Mm-hmm. And the idea that you could manufacture your own story and watch it inside of 10 minutes was alien. It didn't, like, putting those words together in that particular order didn't make sense. It meant nothing.
It meant nothing, yeah. And why would you ever do that? Or could you be able,
it was so backwards and upside. You couldn't even frame that idea. Mm-hmm. And now, and to wrap a child's mind around that, like, what you take for granted simply wasn't real. Mm-hmm. And it became real. That, I think, is... I just get, like, agitated talking. You can see I'm like, shit, like, that's neat. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, oh, man, I loved hearing stories about guys trying to sell a script, not being able to, navigating Hollywood and working through the business. Yeah. And something gets made, it doesn't go anywhere, it tanks, or they make this thing against all odds and it shoots this person into to superstardom and they make a bunch of money. Those are neat stories. That's always a neat story. Mm-hmm. And now I wonder if, like, how are you going to monetize that anymore? Is it going to be just like entertainment would entertainment become free if you can make it yourself?
Mm-hmm. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah,
I love going to the movies.
So do I, but we'll see what's on the horizon for us. What do you think? Have we exhausted our view of the cinematic world for the day?
I think we have, yeah.
That's good because I want to eat.
Okay.
All right, more later. Hugs and kisses. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for listening.